Acute stress response. The first one we're going to take a look at is Walter Cannon's acute stress response, and he really took a look at the whole idea of homeostasis and that our body is always trying to get back to this normal level. It really is a balance. Walter Cannon really started studying this by looking at animals, and the way he looked at it was he always looked at how they reacted to threats that were coming. When we think of homeostasis, it is really a matter of us being able to, if we think about the animal, see the threat, know it's coming, react to it, but then get back to a very normal level in a very quick fashion. So in our bodies, we have this thing called a control system, and we have three components. We have a receptor, we have a control center, and an effector. If we think about it, if we take that hand and we put it on the hot burner, the hot impulse goes from the hand. It takes a while to the brain. The brain says, oh my God, it's hot. The individual pulls the hand away, and then they're left looking at the very burnt or swollen fingers. Then we have to say, okay, now how do we move forward with this? How are we going to resolve this problem? If we think about that, it's the body's way of trying to get us back into balance. Now, on another level, when we look at it, we think about the house in terms of home temperature regulation, and pretty much all of you can see these components here. We have a thermostat, we have a thermometer, and a furnace. And I want you to think for a little bit and think about how do these relate to these three components, the receptor, the control center, and the effector? Well, definitely the furnace is going to be the effector. The thermometer is going to be the receptor, and the thermostat is the control center. And if you think about that in your house, if you're hot, you turn it down. It's the control center, right? If it's cold, you turn it up. And by making those decisions, you affect how you're going to be regulated in terms of temperature in your home. Our body is very unique. When we're hot, we sweat. When we're cold, we shiver. So that's the brain working in terms of this very old kind of system. And this brings us to this slide called fight or flight. Walter Cannon knew this very well by studying these animals. And, you've probably heard of this before. Fight or flight is, hundreds of years old. If we think about it, it goes back probably thousands of years, and we think about, how man survived to where we are today. There was always something that happened that caused this response. There was a stress that came up. It caused a response in the body. And then we had to learn how to deal with it. I often think about this in terms of when we're driving our cars in very bad weather. We know that danger can happen at any time, so we tend to be very stressed. Our shoulders creep closer to our ears. We may hold our jaws tighter. Our body is prepared for what is going to come next. The systems involved in this are the autonomic nervous system and the endocrine system. So what we have is the nervous system working with the endocrine system, allowing hormones to take over and control how we respond. Many of you have probably heard of a hormone called adrenaline. When people are often faced in very stressful situations, adrenaline is pumped out of the body, and it causes us sometimes to be able to have reactions that we wouldn't normally have. You've heard of those stories where people are able to have strength to lift cars off of individuals. This is this system and adrenaline kicking in. So if we want to take a look at some of these definitions here, the endocrine system really is glands that control these chemical messengers called hormones. And the hormones are formed in a part of the body, and they travel through the blood and affect the different cells. Now, when we think about that, hormones can be in the brain, they can be in the adrenal glands, they can be in the ovaries, they can be in different parts of the body. but they will all kick into place as we need them. And what we always want is we want our hormone levels to be very balanced. So we see that these two systems work together. And we know that when we have this kind of a situation take place and the sympathetic nervous system releases those hormones, we see the body changes. If we take a look at the heart rate, respiration, our hearing, and our vision, our liver, our perspiration, and our brain releases endorphins, these things can happen in a split second. And the issue is we want our body to react that way, but we also want our body to be able to go back to what we call homeostasis so we can be back in that state of relaxation. If you take a look at the slide in front of you now, we take a look at how fight or flight changes the body. All of these things prepare us to either stay and fight or run like heck, right? And so we need all of these areas working. And it can be as simple as something like the liver releasing more sugar to give us energy to be able to have this happen. Our muscles, our voluntary muscles contract in order to help us. Our hearing and our vision become more acute, again, in order to help us survive whatever this threat is.